You think the law treats everyone the same? Wait until you see two hands try to retrain an entire room. Morning docket in a New England municipal courtroom. Flags still, seal polished, a printed card of rules taped to the wood. No phones, no talking, respect the court. On the benches sit a veteran with a service pin on his cap, a school bus driver in a windbreaker, a cafe owner clutching a folder with receipts. The ventilation hum is the only noise until the side door opens. Nick Hartley, 19, drifts in like he owns the aisle. White hoodie, expensive sneakers, the front camera of his phone already open. Behind him, a driver in a neat jacket and a family attorney, without an appearance, file themselves into the front row. No mother. No apology. The clerk reads 3 citations in a steady voice. Speeding through a school zone, blocking an ADA ramp at a commercial delivery entrance, amplified music after hours from a parked vehicle. Nick smirks into his screen, angling for the better light. The bailiff, polite but practiced, says, "Sir, phone's down in court." Nick lifts both hands, 2 middle fingers, held high enough to catch the ceiling camera. For a heartbeat, even the air stops. The veteran's jaw tightens. The cafe owner doesn't breathe. The judge doesn't raise his voice. He glances to the bailiff. Noted. The word lands like a gavel. Possible contempt preserved on the record. A pen ticks. The moment is filed, labeled, unemotional. The docket moves, briefly. A woman in a thrifted coat steps to the microphone over a $15 meter error, tremor in her hand, insulin copays itemized in her envelope. Nick tilts his head toward the attorney and whispers, "Wild." The whisper isn't loud, but in the hush, it carries. The bus driver looks at the courtroom rules, then at the boy who just made himself the center of the room. The judge pivots back. Mr. Hartley. Calm, level. Put the phone face down. Nick doesn't look up. The driver behind him shifts, a small, silent prompt. Nick lowers the device to the table, screen dimming like a stage light. Good, the judge says. We'll get to the videos and the facts. But first, this is a courtroom, not your channel. You will behave accordingly. The bailiff's body cam emits a soft click as it saves a bookmark. On the far bench, the cafe owner squeezes her folder. Inside are credit slips for refunded coffees when delivery couldn't reach her ramp. The bus driver rests a palm on his knee, remembering rain, brake lights, and children with oversized backpacks. The veteran folds his cap in his hands, the way he did at graveside details, and watches the boy's shoulders for any sign of respect. Nick leans back, chin lifted, a smile that says the rules are for other people. The judge lets the silence do its work. When it holds long enough, he breaks it with a line as plain as a road sign. Mr. Hartley, set the phone aside and tell the court who you are and why we are here today. He clears his throat like he's about to pitch a startup. Nick Hartley, first-year business. I document city life. The driver behind him stares at his shoes. The family attorney leans toward the mic. He's young, Your Honor. An honest mistake. No prior consequences. The judge looks at the calendar, not the lawyer. He's 19. That is legal adulthood. Continue. A pinprick of pride flashes across Nick's face when he says the surname. In this town, Hartley means decks of parking garages and glassy condos. He wears the name the way he wears that hoodie. Expensive, casual, meant to signal immunity. His feeds are full of night rides, bass thumping under bridges, captions built for provocation, the comments an echo chamber of double taps and daring. The clerk lifts a memo sheet. Court notes indicate 2 earlier citations associated with this plate, were reviewed as courtesy. The words hang. The attorney shifts. Administrative misfilings, Judge. The judge's pen doesn't move. We will not retry those today, but we will understand the pattern. A hand rises from the second bench. Mrs. Gomez, the clerk prompts. She runs the little cafe on Elm, the one that survives on early deliveries and regulars who tip in crumpled singles. His car sat on the ramp. We couldn't get the flour up. I refunded a whole hour's worth of orders. She holds up receipts, like proof that time can be itemized. The ramp's not decoration. The bus driver speaks next, voice soft from years of morning routes. At Maple and 3rd, the light was changing. I had kids at the curb, rain on the paint, cones out. His bumper rolled through the box. He doesn't accuse, he describes. That, somehow, cuts deeper. The attorney tries one more angle. Your Honor, neurologically the prefrontal cortex. The judge lifts a palm. Save the TED Talk. He knew he was at an ADA ramp. He knew he was in a school zone. He knew the hour. The veteran on the aisle nods once, a soldier's economy of approval for sentences that don't waste ammo. Nick's posture shifts microscopically when the words wheelchair ramp and children land. His eyes skate off the bench to the far wall, where the courtroom rules card looks suddenly less like decor and more like a mirror. The driver behind him, older, careful, touches his own wrist, a private signal to lower the temperature. Nick's fingers flatten on the table. The phone stays dark. The judge's tone never warms and never hardens. It simply holds. Mr. Hartley, status is not a credential in here. Family-owned means nothing at this microphone. You say it was empty, quick, harmless. Others say otherwise. We will decide with evidence. Paper whispers as the clerk stacks exhibits. A receipt folder, a route log, a parking memo stamped with a name that never appears on campaign signs, but answers the right numbers after hours. Outside the windows, a siren fades down Main, a reminder that not every emergency is yours. The judge turns the small screen toward the room. We're done with labels. Now we'll watch. School zone camera, then body cam at the ramp. After that, we'll talk about what 2 minutes costs everyone else. The projector hums to life. The room settles, braced for whatever the tape will refuse to excuse. The screen fills with rain-slick asphalt and a blinking crosswalk. The school zone camera timestamp slides forward. 7:43 a.m. A bus noses up with its ambers pulsing. 2 fifth-graders hover at the edge, backpacks fat with homework and lunches. Nick's coupe enters frame, gliding past the stop line as the light turns. No screech, no swerve, just a smooth trespass that leaves the volunteer crossing guard frozen, palm up in a gesture that never got the chance to mean, wait. A soft click, pause. The room exhales. The judge, resume. Now the body cam clip, gray morning, the lip of an ADA ramp, a van idling with its lift folded like a tired elbow. The officer's voice is courteous and plain. Sir, this ramp is active. We hear the patter of rain on his microphone. Off camera. Nick's laugh, close and careless. 2 minutes, they can wait. A beat. The overlaid clock rolls, 00:02 and 11, 00:04, 33, 00:02. The cafe door opens and closes. A dolly stands useless. A barista peers out with a credit slip in her hand. The judge signals for pause again. No sermon, no raised pitch. Just a fingertip resting on the edge of the bench, as if to steady the room. He looks to the clerk. Mark the duration. Nick shifts, the first real crack in his posture since he sat down. His thumb travels to the phone, stops, retreats. He tries a smile that doesn't quite find his face and lifts one shoulder with a hint of that earlier defiance, palm rising an inch as though the gesture has its own muscle memory. The bailiff doesn't raise his voice. "Sir, decorum." The word lands like a latch sliding home. "Mr. Hartley," the judge says, "you have had one warning already." It isn't theatrical. It's procedural. Contempt is not content. The veteran on the aisle adjusts his cap, eyes never leaving the boy. Mrs. Gomez folds her receipts, as if returning them to a wallet that also holds a mortgage and payroll. The bus driver studies his hands, thumbs pressed together, the way people do when they're holding back something less charitable. The judge turns the monitor toward Nick. What you called empty contains children, rain, and a decision you made. What you called 2 minutes contains 6 and a morning's income for someone else. He lets the seconds collect in silence until the numbers feel heavy. On the recording, the officer tries once more. "Sir, step back so we can use the lift." The answer isn't audible this time, only the engine's low purr and the hiss of water along the curb. The judge gestures to the clerk. "Admit both videos. We'll proceed." Then to Nick, evenly. "You will speak now, without the phone, without the smirks, and without the hands. Tell this room, why did you think they could wait for you?" The projector whirs down. The quiet that follows is not empty. It is stacked with evidence and the first real cost of a grin. The judge doesn't lean forward or raise his voice. He simply asks, "What made you certain the rules would step aside for you?" He nods to the clerk. A thin stack of internal notes appears on the screen. Parking division call logs, time-stamped. 2 earlier citations tied to Nick's plate, each labeled courtesy review, each followed by warning substituted. The clerk reads the memo headers. They reference an off-the-record request from the management office of several garages, an entity held by the Hartley Family Trust. No accusations, just daylight. The air in the room tightens a notch. "Who placed the calls?" the judge asks. A manager from the parking company takes the stand. He looks like a man who sleeps with spreadsheets. Under oath, he says the requests were favors, not policy, nothing illegal, just helping a young tenant who meant no harm. The judge thanks him. "A favor that moves one person forward," he says, "moves someone else back." The family attorney clears his throat. He's invited to the podium and sworn, too. The judge's questions are spare. Did he counsel the defendant to avert his eyes and keep a blank face? The attorney admits he suggested holding posture and, pressured, concedes he told Nick not to be baited by authority displays. A murmur rolls the length of the benches. It's not outrage so much as fatigue. Adults teaching theater where there should be character. The judge signals the projector again. A phone clip appears, Nick's own story, scraped from his feed and produced by subpoena. It's a quick pan of the same downtown block, the same coupe idling at a crosswalk, with text across the screen. Rules are for comments. No winks, no denials. It hangs there like graffiti you can't scrub with words. Nick's jaw ticks. He glances back, perhaps for his mother, and finds only the driver's fixed stare. Mrs. Gomez watches the clip without blinking. The bus driver does not look up. "Mr. Hartley," the judge says, "we are not in a criminal trial about influence. We are in a municipal hearing about conduct. Those courtesies are not charges, but they explain your certainty." He sets the notes aside. One more gesture, one more aside, and we stop this for contempt. I will not do it twice. The veteran rises with permission. He doesn't lecture. "Son," he says, "when doors opened for me in uniform, it was so someone in a wheelchair could get through first." He sits. The sentence lands where sermons can't. The judge resumes, steady as a metronome. Here is what the record now shows. You knew the sign at the ramp. You knew the cadence of a school light. You knew favors would soften consequences. You behaved accordingly. He lets the three clauses stand in a row, like steps down a staircase. Nick speaks, finally, voice smaller than his hoodie. I thought I had time, he says. I thought it wouldn't matter. It matters because it made you faster by making them later, the judge replies. And because you believed your last name would cushion the fall. He turns to the clerk. Admit the call logs. Note that the courtesy practice is not for this courtroom to regulate, though it stains confidence. Then to the room, we have enough light. The question now is remedy. He faces Nick again, the tone neither hard nor soft, just exact. Next, we'll discuss what you owe. To the ones who waited, and to the rules you treated like scenery. The projector cools, the fans whisper down. No one is smiling. The case hasn't become larger than life. It has become life, without the filter that promised a skip button. The judge folds his hands. Mr. Hartley, you treated other people's minutes like scrap. We'll measure the cost and return what can be returned. The family attorney starts first, softening his tone. My client will pay all fines today and make generous donations. Donations are voluntary, the judge says. We're speaking of restitution and accountability. He reads from a prepared page, each item clipped, practical. First, the statutory fines stand, plus court costs. Second, restitution to Mrs. Gomez for refunded coffees and wasted prep, in the exact amount documented by receipts. File proof of payment within 10 days. Third, reimbursement to the school district for the additional crossing detail assigned because of your intersection conduct. The district will submit their figure. You will pay it. Fourth, community service in the places you delayed. 2 tracks. Mornings at the cafe from 5:30 to 7:30 for 6 shifts. Back-of-house tasks only. No filming, no branding, no posts. 4 assignments at the school crosswalk alongside the safety officer. Observe, carry cones, assist setup, hands-off phones. Fifth, complete the municipal traffic safety course and pass its exam. Sixth, written apologies, brief and specific, to Mrs. Gomez and to the transportation coordinator. No ifs, no slogans. Deliver in person or by certified mail. He pauses, lets the air settle. A portion of your fine may be held in abeyance. Only after every line above is satisfied will that portion be considered for reduction. Fail a single requirement, and we reinstate the sum in full. The judge lifts his eyes. As for this room, your double salute earns a decorum sanction. Pay it at the clerk's window when we adjourn. One more breach, and we pivot to contempt. Nick swallows. Yes, Your Honor. The veteran rises again, barely above a whisper. If you show up at that corner, I'll hand you a vest. Keep your head up, not your camera. Nick nods, unsure what to do with his hands now that they're no longer a weapon. The judge's closing line is stripped of heat, almost spare. I am not punishing your gestures. I am rejecting the idea behind them, that people are scenery and rules are captions. The rules are how strangers get home. He looks to the clerk. Calendar a compliance review. Mrs. Gomez folds her receipt copies back into a manila envelope and exhales for the first time since dawn. The bus driver adjusts his cap, eyes damp but steady. In the rear row, the driver who brought Nick stares at the floor and says nothing. Mr. Hartley, the judge adds, quieter, if you want to prove you can be quick, be first to show up at 5:30. The rest will follow. The gavel never falls. It doesn't need to. The list itself lands like weight, exact and non-negotiable, the opposite of a wink. The compliance hearing draws no entourage. Nick arrives alone in a plain shirt, phone buried in his pocket, screen dark. He sets a thin folder on the lectern and does not touch the microphone. The clerk flips through exhibits: cashiered fines, course certificate, test score. 2 short letters on heavy paper, apologies without hashtags or logos, one to the cafe, one to the district. Return receipts stapled to each. Mrs. Gomez speaks first. He came before the ovens were warm, lugged flour, mopped, learned where not to stand. No filming. When a line formed, he moved out of the way. She nods once, satisfied rather than impressed. The transportation coordinator follows. 4 assignments completed. He set cones, checked the crosswalk flags, asked what time the kids from the therapy program arrive. Phone stayed in his pocket. The officer noted he watched the light, not the reflection of himself. A delivery driver, the one who had once waited at the blocked ramp, raises a hand. We were short that Tuesday. He shouldered bags without being told, didn't introduce himself, just worked. The city's parking representative steps forward with a memo. Effective immediately. No more courtesy reviews by phone from private managers. All reconsideration requests enter through the portal. Every step is logged and public. We've added an audit flag for repeat callers. It lands without drama, a small hinge creaking into place. The judge reads the last line on the checklist, draws a box, and marks it. The sound of the pen carries farther than anyone expects. "Mr. Hartley," he says, "you did what was asked where it mattered, in the hour before dawn and at the edge of a crosswalk." The portion of fines held in abeyance is lifted. The remainder stands, not as punishment, but as memory. He lets that rest. "I told you rules aren't captions. They are the reason strangers arrive home. Keep your hands for carrying weight, not for signaling contempt." The veteran in the front row tips his cap. "You kept your head up," he says, almost to himself. Nick clears his throat. "Yes, sir." No speech follows. He gathers the stamped copies and steps aside so the next case can breathe. There is no gavel, only simple sounds. The clerk's stamp, a chair's soft scrape, shoes finding the aisle. At the door, Nick holds it for a woman with a cane and does not look to see who noticed. Outside, morning traffic murmurs past the school zone. The cones are stacked straight. The vest he wore hangs on a hook in the safety office, anonymous as any other. That is the point. Adulthood isn't louder, it's steadier. And steadiness in this room is the closest thing to grace.